Welcome to the Whitetail Experience. I'm your host, Byron Horton. And on this episode, I sit down with a good buddy of mine, Rick, and talk about his habitat improvement projects he's got on his farm in southeastern Ohio. So tell me a little bit about this land improvement project you got going on in southeastern Ohio.
All right, Byron. So currently, I own 88 acres in southeastern Ohio. Approximately 8 acres of that is field, hayfield, meadow, whatever. The other 80 acres is a mix of hard and softwood timber. So the goal of the project obviously is to attract wildlife to the property and hold them, but it's also kind of a two-pronged goal in that I want to reintroduce some species that are on the decline in the woods or have disappeared from our woods as we know.
Okay, so these chestnut trees, take us through a little bit of the process start to finish as far as getting them in the ground is concerned.
Normally you can start with a chestnut and try to plant it that's a little more spotty. I elected to start with a 12-inch start for 4 of the trees that I'm putting in, and I'm going to try to get a total of 25 in the ground over the next few years. The 4 trees I put in, you don't have to be very strategic. It's more about they've got to be within a certain distance of each other because they don't self-pollinate, they cross-pollinate, so you can't put them too far apart or they won't pollinate and produce viable nuts.
Sure.
So I put the plant in the ground and built an enclosure around it. If you think of the tree, if you're standing up, the tree in the center with your arms out, that's about the size of the enclosure. I just want to keep deer and everything else from trampling over it or even coming in as they grow to saplings, bigger saplings, rubbing on them. I don't want to get the trees damaged, so I just built the enclosures around each one.
So I guess my follow-up question to all this is, why not plant an apple tree or an oak tree of some sort? Why chestnut?
Good question. Apple is a whole different animal, if you will. It's a fruit, true fruit, not a mast crop. So let's focus on the oaks because we've got those today. So you predominantly have red oaks, white oaks. Mm-hmm. They both produce acorns. If you watch deer in the fall, they're going to go after white oaks first, red oaks second. Both are high nutrition. They go the white oaks first because they're not as bitter, and the red oaks are more bitter. And what makes them bitter is a substance called tannin. Chestnuts have no tannin. So they should be very attractive and palatable to deer. They're also a bigger nut. They come in a husk, and the husk will be the size of your fist when they mature. There'll be 3 nuts in that husk.
Oh, wow. Okay. So now that these trees are in the ground, how many years are we looking at till they produce? And then is this the type of tree that produces every year or every other?
They produce every year. They're annual producers. Typically, I mean, this is like an oak. Most oaks will produce every year, and certain conditions may inhibit that. If it's like really dry or something where they don't get enough to produce the fruit, it's like any tree, they won't produce that year. Chestnuts should be producing 4 or 5 years in age. It's not a heavy crop, but you might get a nut or 2 off of a tree at that point. Obviously, the older they get, the more nuts you're going to get. These trees, if they take to the American side, and nobody knows the answer to this because this cross hybrid species hasn't been around long enough to really determine its maximum size. But the old chestnuts in America were over 100 feet tall and ginormous. They were called the redwoods of the East. So you can imagine the kind of nut crop you're going to get off one tree of that size. And obviously, I'll never live to see that because it's probably going to take 50, 60 years to get there, but the potential is there.
Very cool. So now that this project's kind of wrapping itself up, do you see any other sort of habitat improvements for your farm?
A tree I've been interested in, for whatever reason I'm attracted to trees, probably because I'm predominantly woods and not a lot of opportunity for food plots as people think about them, is a persimmons. Those used to be around a lot on our farm in particular. I remember them as kids, we'd go through there in the fall squirrel hunting and just pick a persimmons and eat it. You know, it's a little snack while you're going through the woods. And they've kind of, I don't know why, they just seem to have waned. I don't know if the environment has changed or what, but I would like to experiment with persimmons down the road.
Sounds like a future episode here on the Whitetail Experience.
There you go.
Rick, I'd like to thank you for coming on. You're very knowledgeable on the subject. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Be sure to follow us on social media to get the latest Whitetail Experience updates.